All right, all right, all right, all right. My goodness, we are live. We are live on the Life and Health Show. And today, we are privileged to be coming your way with another interesting topic on hypertension. On this channel, we talk about how to take care of yourself, especially concerning your heart, your brain, to protect yourself against strokes and heart disease for the most part. And so some of the things that we're going to be talking about are always linking to those things. So our talk today, as you may have seen if you clicked on the thumbnail, it's hypertension. Eat this and not that. We're going to be sharing with you some of the food groups that we think you should avoid if you want to avoid hypertension, or if you're already dealing with hypertension or high blood pressure and you want to definitely take care of yourself and prevent, getting into trouble with hypertension. But the great thing is that we are going to start off in a way that wouldn't be just giving you the information, eat this and not that, because I don't know the kinds of food you guys eat. I don't know. We have hundreds of people, and hopefully within the next few months, thousands of people watching. And so I don't think we can list everything. So the cheat that we're going to do is to actually teach you what to look for. That way, no matter the kind of food you eat, you can definitely know what to avoid. So again, our topic, as we said, is high BP or high blood pressure or hypertension. Eat this or not that. And we are going to proceed on with our slide. So if you are joining us again, hit the like, share, and thumbs up and all the good stuff so that we can reach more people, because this is life-saving stuff we're going to be talking about today. All right, so with that being said, welcome to the Life and Health Show. My name is Dr. Otain, and my co-host is
Gift to your team.
Oh, come on, man. We are the Otains on the live today. The Otains on the live today. So hopefully you can stay through the entire length of the video, because we have very great information to share. So with that being said, we want to head straight to our slides and start the show. Hypertension, eat this and don't eat that. All right, so Annie, can we move forward? Do you have anything to share with the audience right now?
Yeah, let's move forward.
Let's move forward straight to the point, because people don't have time to waste. All right, so hypertension, eat this and not that. So what we're going to be talking about is what we are showing you now. Again, if you are not watching from YouTube, you don't see this, but we have this. We are going to be doing a little bit of an intro about hypertension, especially if you didn't watch our last week's show. You probably don't know what we've been talking about. So after that, we're also going to be doing something with sodium and high blood pressure. What at all has sodium got to do with hypertension?
And we also continue with how potassium can affect blood pressure. And we will try and distinguish between saturated fats and trans fats, and how these two fats can affect blood pressure.
All right. And then from there, we are going to also talk about fiber-rich foods and what that can do for hypertension or for high blood pressure. And then we will zoom also onto sugars. What has sugar got to do with hypertension? What's love got to do with this? What has sugar got to do with hypertension? My goodness. That's another thing that we could touch on. And then from there,
we go straight to our main topic. We are going to show few foods, what you have to eat and what you have to avoid. Then we'll discuss what we will talk about next week.
All right. So buckle up. We got a very interesting, detailed show to share. And if you are joining us, whatever platform you are watching us from, make sure that you do us the honor by doing the like, share, so that other people can see and then also join us. So with that being said, we'll move straight to our next thing on our agenda. That's the intro. What is hypertension? If you did not watch our show last week, you probably don't know what we were talking about. And so we just want to use this few minutes to talk about what hypertension is. Let me start up. So hypertension basically is high blood pressure. And everybody has blood pressure. In fact, if you don't have blood pressure, you would be dead. Everybody has blood pressure. But there are several kinds of blood pressure. There's good pressure, there's low pressure, and there's high pressure. And what we're talking about is high blood pressure, which is usually the bad one. And so high blood pressure is literally as we said last week, any number of the systolic or the top number, which is over 130 millimeter mercury, which is definitely going into the high range. So as long as or as soon as you hit 130 and over, you are getting into the realms of what we call hypertension. Well, depending on where you live or what kind of goals your clinic or your physicians may set. Some people, it may be more. Some people, it's actually less. Some people, as long as you go over 120, you may be considered hypertensive. But for this show, we'll say that starting from 130, you got to be concerned. That's the top number. And then the bottom number, also over 80. That also says that you are going into hypertension, even if you've not been diagnosed yet. So those are the key points to say about what hypertension is. And hypertension, as we all know, has a link to serious diseases, serious consequences in terms of your health, your cardiovascular health, your brain health, your heart health, and all the like. But we'll have that show next week. But for now, that is all we can say about what hypertension is as an intro.
So what I would add is, so when your heart pumps, the pressure that it measures is the systolic, is the diastolic, right? The top one?
The systolic, yes.
The systolic. And when it relaxes, then is the bottom number, which is the diastolic. So it's just a measurement of the pressure, how your blood flows in the arteries. So when it's too high, then it's indicated as you having high blood pressure. And the measurement is between 130 over 90. So anything higher, your doctor may have a talk with you, what the things that you can do differently so that you don't stay hypertensive.
All right. So with that being said, let's move forward to the next thing that we want to discuss on our show. The next thing is, okay, so what about sodium and hypertension? As we said, sodium and hypertension, and those watching from YouTube or Facebook, you can tell that we are showing also an image on the right of our screen showing some of the high rich foods in sodium or sodium rich foods that you could talk about. But what has sodium got to do with it? You want me to start off?
Yeah, so sodium, I think whenever we say high blood pressure or hypertension, our mind goes straight to sodium, right? So foods that have high content of sodium is the ones that you want to avoid. So let's talk about how sodium affects your pressure. So when you take in a lot of sodium, when you ingest a lot of sodium, then your body tends to retain a lot of fluids because there should be a balance in the bloodstream. So you take more sodium, your body have to retain water. So when the body retain water, it means that you're going to increase the volume of your blood. So if your blood is increased, then you need higher pressure to pump through your arteries. So sodium content, increased sodium intake is likely to retain fluids, which will increase the volume of your blood, which needs higher pressure to push through. So definitely sodium has a lot to do with your pressure.
Oh my goodness, sodium has got to do with blood pressure. My goodness, sodium is a culprit in hypertension. As we can say it any different than she has already said. If you have high sodium, and the key, you may be like, but what is sodium? Sodium is literally what you add to your food called salt. If you have salt or you add salt to your foods, you are adding sodium because salt is literally sodium chloride, right? But the sodium part is the one that ends up being toxic to us in terms of cardio or cardiovascular health in terms of hypertension. So sodium is the salt that we add to our foods. So that if you're eating foods that are high in sodium, then the key is that it's going to end up raising your blood volume because homeostasis, your body is set by God in a standard that it has to taste somewhere. I mean, let's use that analogy. It has to taste somewhere, kind of like making soup. If you have soup, you want a consistent taste of salt in there. So if the salt is too much, you either have to add more water or remove the salt out. And so for our blood volume, it will go up if you have so much sodium in there because it's too salty. Literally. Come on, man. Your blood is salty. So much salt. And so because you have to have more water to dilute it to maintain what it has to be, then you end up having too much volume, and too much volume, as she said, leads to the pressure, because the heart hasn't increased in size. It's just beating against the same volume, the same blood that you have. But if you have increased it, then of course you have increased the pressure, because there's a limit to your blood vessels. The blood vessels are where they are. They are not going to say that, well, he or she ate more salt, so this time let's increase the number of body parts so that we can have a place to go. No, the body is fixed, the size is fixed, and so if you have increased salt, then there has to have more water, which then makes the heart pump harder against an increased pressure. So the volume of your blood increases if your salt or if sodium is high. That is why sodium is always blamed in hypertension. So that is pretty much what it is as far as sodium is concerned. Now, there may be other ways that we can also discuss sodium, but to make the show easier and quick, we want to just end it there with that. Anything else to add
Yeah,
to that?
so according to United States National Institute of Health, it's recommended that you try to keep the amount as low as 2,300 milligrams a day. 2,300 milligram a day. So you try to take in foods that have low content of sodium in order to meet that standard. So if you are able to lower the amount of salt intake, it's likely that your blood pressure is going to be is going to be good.
Reduce, yeah.
Yeah. So salt intake, the maximum amount, you don't want to go beyond 2,300 milligrams. So let's break it down. Can you measure that in terms of teaspoon or tablespoon? 2,500 milligrams.
You could use 1 gram is 1,000 milligram, right? So 1 gram, 2 grams is definitely how much we are talking about. And approximately, I would think that 1 tablespoon would be more than enough for that amount. I'm not sure. We could measure it and then, or maybe find out later. But if you go to 2.5 grams of salt, then you are going over the limit. Now, in actuality, they want you to go less than 2,300 all the way to 1,500. That is the goal. The goal is that your salt intake must reduce to 1,500 milligrams. We were thinking about showing you some canned foods and telling you how much, showing you on the camera how much each food contains in terms of sodium. So in one meal, you can literally just consume all the amount of sodium that is recommended in a day. So if you are not reading labels, obviously you will miss that. So keep that in mind. Your daily intake should not exceed 2,300. But if you are even heart conscious, or if you are hypertensive, or you have family history of hypertension or high blood pressure, you should actually look for a goal of 1,500 milligrams or 1.5 grams of salt daily. That is where you will be saying that you're doing good. Without that, you aren't doing good yet. All right. So now, with that being said, we can move on, unless you have any.
Yeah, with the picture that you showed, the McDonald's fries that you showed earlier. If you can put that up.
Go ahead. What's your point?
Yeah, so you can see that the fries, that they put raw salt on it. So the salt amount content is so high that if you eat that in addition to the burgers and top it with the soda and the chicken on the side,
everything has got salt.
Yeah, it's all like you are exceeding the amount of sodium, the daily amount that is recommended.
In just one meal.
And you are going to eat dinner and you're going to eat snacks in between and all that. So if your meal is going to be around Burger King, fries, chicken and all that is sold outside, it's likely that you are going to exceed the amount that is recommended for you.
It's likely you're going to exceed the amount, my goodness. And that is what we don't want you to do, because that will be taking you into the realms of heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and the rest. So let's move on then to the next thing that we want to talk about in terms of hypertension. And this time we're talking about a bad guy called sodium. Sodium is not all that bad. We need sodium. The key is we need sodium. You can't go on a zero sodium. We need water. Our body is made up of water, and you need sodium to hold the water that you have there. But the excess is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Now, this other guy, potassium, seems to be a good guy. Potassium is a kind of like a good. I think, if anything, so potassium is a better guy than sodium.
It's another form of salt.
It's
right?
another form of salt. So we call all of them electrolytes. So there's got to be a balance stricken between sodium and potassium to keep your blood volume in a consistent amount, or your blood pressure also around the safe level. And so what we know is that if you are somebody conscious with hypertension, or somebody conscious of hypertension, family history, or maybe you actually have it and you want to bring it down, while we tell you to cut down on the sodium, what we want to do though is to increase the potassium, because potassium amount, as your potassium levels go up, you get rid of the excess sodium. So some of the easy ways to get rid of sodium that you already have, apart from taking in more, is to eat foods that are high in potassium, because they exchange with each other. So if you eat more potassium or sources of potassium, then the sodium gets removed. They can all be an equal amount in your body. Suffice to say, there has to be a balance between the sodium and your potassium. So if you want your blood pressure to be low, you increase your sources of potassium so that the sodium will be removed. So while you cut down on the sodium-rich foods, you increase at potassium-rich foods. Always with a caveat, not that you're just going to eat only potassium and everything is potassium. You can also exceed potassium and get into problems like arrhythmias here and there. But the key is, if you are hypertensive, or if you are dealing with any issues with heart disease, or those things that we're talking about, cardiovascular issues, then increasing your potassium-rich foods as against sodium-rich foods is better. As long as you do it right, the body will strike a nice balance, and your hypertension will be easily managed compared to somebody who completely avoids potassium. And if you have anything to add with that.
Yes, so as we go on, we will bring up foods that have high potassium content, so that you have to stay with us to the end. Then you are going to learn foods that have high content of potassium. So as Otin said, in the kidneys, there is an exchange. So as you take in more foods that has high content of potassium, then you get rid of the sodium. So there is an exchange. We don't want to go into details, but there is a whole mechanism between potassium and sodium in our kidneys that happens. So if you take in more potassium, you get rid of excess sodium. In so doing, your blood pressure is controlled. Also, potassium also produce something called nitric oxide. So when you take in potassium source of foods, you're going to relax the arteries, the muscles in there. And as your arteries relaxes, your blood pressure is controlled. So we are encouraging you to look out for foods that are high in potassium, so that when you take it, your blood pressure will be well controlled.
Oh my goodness, so that when you take it, your blood pressure will be well controlled. All right, so that is potassium. So just to keep things in perspective, we say sodium must be reduced, or sodium sources, you got to be watchful of sodium. But at the same token, increase your potassium-rich foods. And the cheat is, we are going to end the show with some foods that are abundant in potassium, that you don't have to do anything, but you got to stay to the end, like she said. And that is where we talk about eat this, not that. We're also going to tell you what you should avoid, but we want to make sure that you understand why we made those decisions, so that if your food that you like is not there, because you already know what we are talking about, you can decide that this is salty, I'm not going to eat it. Why? Because of this is what it's going to do to me at the end. And so stick with us, and let's make sure that we do this together. All right, so with that being said, we can move on, right? With that being said, the next thing that we're going to talk about is saturated fats and trans fats. How has that got to do with our blood pressure, our hypertension? What has got to do with hypertension as far as saturated fats are concerned? And this is a messy slide that I'm showing. Those of you who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, you can tell this lady is eating a burger. This burger has so much cheese that she can't even hold it. She has to wear gloves to be able to handle this. Oh, come on, man. That is the extreme. That is the extreme way of showing the picture, but it may be in little amounts that are still harmful. So, you want to start off? How does saturated fat or trans fat lead to hypertension?
Yes, so I think with our cholesterol discussion, we talked about saturated and trans fats, and that leads to high levels of our LDL. So the LDL in our body, as we've all learned, block the arteries. It forms plaques in our arteries. It block the epithelium cells because it's fat, so it settles in the tubes of your arteries. So when it settles in the tubes of that, it constricts the tube so that blood will be moving through it. So when blood moves through it, because it's constricted, you need higher pressure to push through the arteries. So when your heart is working hard just to push the blood through your arteries, because your arteries are blocked with the LDL and the fats that you take, the trans fats that you're taking. So it's constricted and you need higher pressure to push the blood. So if you consume foods that are high content of saturated fats, then it means that you are increasing the deposition of fats in the arteries. And when that happens, you constrict the opening. You are narrowing
the passage of
the passage of blood. So your heart have to work harder to push the blood, and that increases your blood pressure.
Oh, come on, man. That is not a nice case. So you are eating fats, and saturated fat is depositing in your arteries, blocking and making narrow the path of the blood. So now your heart has to beat faster because it's encountering resistance, right? Basically, it's encountering resistance because of the plaques that are deposited. The other thing that the LDS do is that they, I think you alluded to it slightly, they cover the lining of the blood vessels, what we call the endothelium, and so that you cannot release nitric oxide. Nitric oxide, as we said before in our cholesterol discussion, is released, and then when it's released, it makes the arteries relax so that blood can flow. So relax, we call it dilate. So they dilate, they just open up, and blood can easily flow. But if you are covering it up with fat because of all the saturated fats and trans fat you are eating, then of course it's not going to have that inner lining. It's already covered. So how are they going to release the nitric acid, and how are they going to relax? So your arteries become stiff. Apart from the deposition of the plaques in there making it stiff, there's no way for that also to be able to release the nitric oxide, which can make it relax. So two things happening, and then because of that, your pressure goes up. And I mean, everything we have discussed in cholesterol is applicable here. Everything we discussed in diabetes is showing up here. So if you listen to us and you do some of the things that we are always hammering on, you'll be taking care of cholesterol, your blood sugar, your cardiovascular health in totality is what we actually going to say you will be doing. That's what this channel is about, to make sure that your cardiovascular health is on point, which is basically your heart, the blood vessels, and your brain. No stroke, no heart attack, no diabetes of any sort. That is what we are about. My goodness, where did my slide go? Anyway, so we are going to make sure that we come to where we are going from what we are going to do from now. So now, what else do you have to say?
Yeah, so I think before we started studying or learning about all this, all that I knew was salt when it comes to blood pressure, right? All that I knew was sodium. Oh, I have to cut down my sodium. I have to cut down processed foods because they use salt to conserve it or make it last longer, right? But now we are learning that it doesn't get affected by only sodium, right? Cholesterol also affects your high blood pressure. So it's something that we have to learn and understand, that if you take in saturated fat and your arteries are blocked, definitely your pressure have to go up in order for you to live as a human being. So it affects everything. You can say that I'm just controlling my blood pressure and I'm going to watch the sodium and forget about the fat. There should be a balance between the sodium intake and the saturated fat intake.
There should be an all everything put together. You can just hit one point and be done with it. So now, with that being said, we are going to go to the next point, right? Unless we have another. So the next point then is fiber and blood pressure. So we talked about, again, to keep it in perspective, talked about saturated fat, we talked about sodium, we talked about potassium. Now we're talking about fiber and your blood pressure. And this one is good news. Come on, man. That one is good news. This is good news. So, as far as fiber and blood pressure is concerned, there's a lot to say, but we're just going to summarize it and say that if you eat high fiber diet or foods that are rich in fiber, you are definitely going to improve your blood pressure. If your pressure is high, you are going to ultimately improve it. It's not going to be it's not just going to take one day or one diet, and no. A consistent diet rich in fibers will definitely lead to a manageable blood pressure level. And the reason is in several fold. One of them, it's actually indirect reasons. It's not direct. So one of the indirect reasons why fiber will lead to a reduced blood pressure is that fiber will control your sugars. And we will talk about sugars leading to blood pressure in a little bit. But fiber will control sugars. High fiber diet will also lead to manageable weight. And we already know that if you are overweight, you stand a higher increase or higher risk of hypertension or high blood pressure. If you have a diet rich in fibers, then you are taking care of that. So that is just a couple of things. Have anything to add?
And also taking in high fiber also work in your flora, in your gut. So there has been a new study that if you take in the fermented foods and drinks, which has high fiber, it's likely that you are going to work in your flora, like in your big intestine, that there will be a balance between good bacteria and bad bacteria. In controlling that, you tend to control your blood pressure.
All right. So the bacteria in your GI, they grow on your fiber. And so if you eat fiber-rich foods, then they have a medium upon which they can grow. If your diet is not with fiber, then of course you don't get the benefit of blood pressure control when we're talking about gut microbiome and stuff like that. Fiber has a host of other things. And by fiber, we're not just talking about what we showed you as beans. Fiber includes leaves, includes greens, and all those things that we are going to mention later on in the show. But definitely, fiber-rich foods would definitely help control your blood pressure overall. Anything else before we move on?
Let's go.
All right. So with that being said, then we are going to go to the next one, which is sugar and blood pressure. Oh, come on, man. I like this one. Sugar and blood pressure. So sugar, as we have hinted before, sugar added diets or foods rich in sugar are definitely culprits in hypertension. If you have hypertension, as we tell you to cut down on the salt, in fact, as for sugar, I won't say cut down, I'll say eliminate. Remove sugar from your diet. Why? Because, not only is it going to raise your blood pressure, it is also going to lead to diabetes. So two things in one. Of course, salt can also lead to kidney damage and all those things. But yeah, sugar definitely should not be part of your diet. And by sugar, it's not just the cubes that we see on our show right here. We're talking about sneaky sugar. Sneaky sugars that have been put in foods that you do not expect. Come on, man. We call them what? High fructose corn syrups. Fructose added to meals that you do not have any control over. So we're going to be showing you that if you are buying anything on the shelf, it behoves on you. It is your responsibility to flip it over to the ingredients and then see that it doesn't have any fructose. Because if it does have fructose, you are eating sugar. whether or not you added sugar to your food, you're eating sugar. And if you eat sugar and you're hypertensive, it's going to spike it up more. I'm going to let you talk about the reason.
Yeah, so how does sugar affect blood pressure, right? So we know that as you take in high fructose sugars, it's likely that it's going to be converted to something called uric acid. And this uric acid, it will cause your blood pressure to increase. Basically, that's how we can put it. Simply
simple
put.
as that, yeah.
So the source of sugar, which is the fructose, to be precise, is something that you want to avoid altogether. Because if you take that, that is converted to uric acid, and the uric acid spike your blood pressure. So
Ultimately.
yeah, so to avoid fructose is a must. Sometimes they're so sneaky. They put it in the label. Sometimes you can't find it under the active ingredients. You have to look down, and you can read it under the inactive ingredients. And you should take your time and really read, and you will realize that they've hidden it somewhere in the ingredients. They are responsible to indicate every ingredient in food. I think that's what they monitor. So as a consumer, it is your responsibility to know what you are taking in. And we are telling you today that fructose is something that you have to stay away from, because it's converted to something called uric acid. And uric acid increase your blood pressure.
Oh, come on, man. Uric acid is the culprit right here. Right, they won't tell you fructose. Fructose, it's, high fructose corn syrup. They will put it like that. There's no added sugar. It's just high fructose corn syrup. That is a cheat. That's sugar right there. Come on, man. That is sugar right there.
But even if you read that, look at the label, they will say added sugar, 18 grams. Then in addition to the added sugar, they will include the high fructose corn syrup. So it's
double
like
whammy.
Yes.
Double whammy right there. So added sugar plus added fructose in the form of corn syrup. When you drive, those of us who live in the US, when you drive in the cornfields of Ohio and all those places, I'm like, oh, these cornfields. I don't see people eating, any food made with corn. Have you seen it in the US? I don't see anybody eating any food, like other people eat banku and, dumplings from corn. They don't eat it, but we have huge cornfields, and most of those cornfields are converted to high fructose corn syrup, which is added to your liquids, your sodas, your juices, and your chocolate bars, whatever it is that is tasting sweet. They are not adding sugar because it's more expensive to add sugar. And even if they add sugar, they add this to it. And so, sneaky, they are making your blood pressure go up. And a host of other things, obesity, waist circumference, your belt you can't close, it's all because of high fructose corn syrup. Oh, I wish we had a game. We say something, then we respond. High fructose corn syrup. Most of the diseases, diabetes, that is killing a lot of people in the US and other places in the West, high fructose corn syrup. Obesity, overweight, you don't eat, but you drink soda and you don't understand why you are overweight. So I'm like, I don't eat anything. Well,
I drink the diet too.
You drink the high fructose corn syrup. I hope we annoyed you enough that the next time you pick up something on the shelf, you will turn the bottle or the can and see if there is anything called that. And if there is anything on that, just drop it out and run. Come on, man. Drop it and run. Drop it and run. Because that is not something for you. Oh, we have a comment here from brother. Let me put it up there. It says, Wisdom Glass says, thanks and God bless you. Oh, thank you, bro, for watching and for commenting. God bless you too. Thank you for watching. And if you have any comments, you can put it on the comment section. And don't forget to like if you are liking the show. Those of you on Facebook and YouTube, we can see your comments right now. And sometimes if you post it like we did this. But if you're on TikTok, we may not see it now, but we see it later. So keep also engaging. Come on, man. We love your engagement also. All right. So that is sugar. Now, that is one way. That is one way. What if it's added sugar by itself? You yourself, you make coffee and you add sugar. Or you make tea and you add sugar. Or there is a chocolate, there's something else, any food that you add sugar. Sugar has other means that they cause, increases in blood pressure, which is kind of long if you want to go through the whole process, but ultimately it leads to weight gain. And remember, if your blood pressure goes up, some of the first things your doctor will tell you is to lose 10 pounds. If any 10-pound loss in weight will lead to a corresponding 5 points loss in blood pressure. And so that tells you that if you're eating sugar and you're gaining weight, of course, then you're gaining high blood pressure. And so indirectly, if you are eating sugar, you are increasing not just your diabetes risk, you are increasing your blood pressure risk. And that is why a lot of people who already have high blood sugar also have hypertension or high blood pressure, because they go hand in hand. So in order to avoid that, stay away from added sugar. Now we have learned, we all grew up adding sugar to our tea, our coffee, our oatmeal, or whatever. But now we have learned to avoid those things. Even though we're educated here in the US, we went through diabetes education and all this. Nobody told us don't add it. You have to come to a point of understanding some of these things. So you may be a professional, you may be even a nurse, you may be a doctor who is watching. I'm telling you, bro, stay away from high sugars. Just quit sugar all, because glucose is in everything. You don't need sugar to make things taste sweet. It's already there.
It's already there.
It's already there. When you taste it, it means it's too much. And so avoid tasting it in the first place. Come on, man. Avoid tasting it. It means that it is too much there. Yeah. I mean, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and also if you take in sugars, it can lead to insulin resistance.
Insulin resistance, right there. Insulin resistance, which is also
can increase your blood pressure.
Insulin resistance is a risk factor for hypertension. So they go hand in hand. So if you avoid sugar, you are avoiding diabetes, you are avoiding hypertension, you are avoiding a host of other things that you don't know. Uric acid levels, which is also gout. Oh, come on, man. Everything sugar. You can blame sugar for all your troubles. Yes, you can, at least for now. So let's stay away from sugar. And that is why we brought sugar as part of our talk on blood pressure. We got a question on the live. And the question is from Pastor Eric Atanga. And he says, can honey replace sugar at all? Come on, that's a great question. Can honey replace sugar? And my answer is, it depends. Come on, man, you think I was going to commit myself? It depends. If you are replacing the crystal sugar that we know with high amounts of honey because, it's honey, it's not sugar, then you are making a mistake. But if you need to taste a little bit of the sweetness, the flavor, and you do replace your sugar with honey, I think it's okay. But don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, the sweet that you taste in the honey is still going to be converted to glucose, and you're still going to have the problems. So ultimately, if you cannot eat something that you cannot, eat without sugar, I would add honey instead. So in that case, you have changed from one form to another. But at least if you are disciplined enough not to overdo it, that is better than to just add crystal or refined sugar, because in honey, it's not refined. And I'm thinking that your honey is not those that have been purified and, extensively processed. So that, in fact, some honeys, they even put sugar in there. We used to buy some honey. We thought it was good. But you use the honey for a little bit, and then it settles at the bottom, and it's all sweet. Sugar. So if your honey is the natural organic source, then you can use that, not too much at least, to replace dry processed crystals of sugar. So I think that...
Yeah, so it boils down to reading the ingredients of the honey that you are going to put in your tea or your coffee, right? Because sometimes it's honey all right, but they sneak in this sweetness in there. So you have to read, and you have to know the source of the honey that you are using. If half is sugar and half is honey, that's not, basically you are still adding sugar.
Yes.
So you have to know the source and how much to use when you're using it.
How much, always being disciplined on the amount. And he gives us a thumbs up. Thank you for that. My goodness. All right. So I think did we exhaust the sugar slide?
Yes.
If we did, then we are going to be able to move on to the next one, which is eat this and not that. This is where the whole show is about. Come on, man. Eat this and not that. Eat this and not that. So hopefully you have been challenged now to knowing what is going to get your blood pressure up and what can bring it down. Remember, potassium bringing your blood pressure down, sodium bringing your blood pressure up, saturated fats and trans fats bringing your blood pressure up, and then veggies and fibers bringing your blood pressure down. So if you know this, then when we point some food to you, you're already there. You are shocked. You know exactly where you're going to go. And then if we are not able to mention your food, at least knowing what they are, you can tell that this food, even though they didn't say it on the live, I know it is not good. Because why? It has so much salt or it has so much fat. You yourself can make those decisions. So I think you have been empowered to do those things now. And with that being said, we'll move on first to eat this, not that. And the first one is saturated fats. My goodness. Saturated fats. The foods that contain saturated fats. So the first one is, again, saturated fats. We're going to pause and list some of them. I think we wrote some of them down so we can see them. You have your list of some of the saturated fats. I have mine. And so I will pause this right here. And then after we go through, we'll move to the other food groups. So the first one is beef. Fatty cuts of beef. So on the screen, you can tell that there's red meat right there. It's got a fatty streak in the middle, especially the centerpiece. If you look closely, you can see the fatty streak in there. That is saturated fat right there. And so you want to avoid any pieces of meat that has fat. Some of them may be processed. If you buy sausages, if you buy pork, fatty cuts of beef, pork, as well as lamb or any other kind of meat that has fatty streaks in there. It's basically not fat-free. Then you are standing the risk of increasing your blood pressure levels. Right?
Yeah, yes. But so you know that these parts are the parts that really taste good too, right?
Of course, the fat tastes good. Fat is good. The taste of fat is good. And so if you think about it that way, then you probably will not even listen to us. But there's always a way to make something better and healthier, and that is where we are going. So if you had it before, time over, you stop that, and then because people are growing, when your kids are doing this, you probably will not say much. But if you can train them to start in the beginning, then it's going to be easier for them. But you ate this right from childhood. Now you are 20-something, you are 30-something. We're telling you to stop. Come on, don't cry about it. Don't cry about it. Yeah, just let it go and increase your cardiovascular health. So that is the first one that we are
So when you look at this food, you see the fat and you see all that is going on here. Just think about what is going to do when you eat it, when it gets inside you.
Don't let the picture just deceive you.
We've talked about the fat being forming LDL, increasing your level of LDL, and this LDL is going to be deposited in the arteries, and it's going to block your arteries. So think about that before you start liking it, and you try to stay away from it because you know the outcome of it if you keep eating it. Once in a while, maybe okay. Maybe you go out once a month and you feel like eating it one time. It's okay. But for it to be your daily menu and you keep eating
weekly,
the fat.
even weekly, it's not good.
Weekly, no. So you have to find a way to stay away from it. If it's something that you've grown up with, find a way so that maybe you can cut it. Not abruptly, right? Which we don't want you to cry about. But at least slowly, because of what you know and because that you are aging, you are growing, so that there are certain things that you have to change in order to have a healthy life.
All right, my goodness. So cut that. Be a man, be a woman, and cut it. Don't cry about it. And then the next one is fatty dairy foods. So I'm going to let it play and we'll probably get to those. So all those things, this is one of them. All those things carry, this is a whole milk. I used to love whole milk. Come on, make a bowl of cereal with whole milk. And then people will be like, oh, but you're skinny, you shouldn't worry about it. And I enjoyed it, man. Come on, man. Whole milk, either with cookies like it's on the side there, which is also probably filled with a lot of
Trans
saturated,
fats.
trans fats too. And then you eat your cereal and you are happy. That is also not good. Whole milk is not good for you if you are trying to be healthy. If you're trying, you can give it to a little kid, a baby who is growing and needs the calcium and the fat there. But for you, who is already walking and already going through stuff, you got to stop drinking whole milk. So fatty dairy sources of food, including milks, cream, butter, as well as cheese. All those things should be avoided if you are concerned with your blood pressure. Now, you may be like, how what life is not going to be sweet anymore. We can't eat this. We can't eat that. Come on, man. You can eat. You can eat the alternatives. There are alternatives there. I mean, you don't have to have whole milk. You can have a 1% milk. It's still milk, right? You can have a non-fat dairy milk. It's still milk, But to just pick up any milk on the shelf without reading, it's like I don't care. Whatever happens, that is where we want to stop you from going. So you can make educated choices, of foods, especially when it comes to these milks and cheeses, and definitely make sure that you avoid cream, butter, and cheese. Don't eat this. Don't eat this. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, with the pastries, it's most of them is full of trans fats. Trans fats. The
Okay.
pastries.
Okay, let's move on. I have another slide
Oh,
for
you
that.
do? Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Yeah, so definitely if you stay away from the pastries, you'll be cutting down on the amount of saturated fats that you take in.
So by pastries, let's give some examples like baked goods, right?
Baked goods. So like cookies, sometimes they have nice
My goodness.
like cake.
You are talking
right?
about this one too?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man. That looks good, dude. So baby, we can have this on a birthday even.
Cheesecakes. This is a cheesecake, right?
Wow. I don't know what kind of cake it is, but
Yeah,
that
so
looks good. And
the
they have
baking they
apple on the
use.
side though. You got apple on the side. Yeah, go ahead.
So they use the trans fat in baking it and making it look all this tasty, and because they need the trans fat to make it more like soft and
Sweet.
moist and all that. So staying away from this would definitely help you control your blood pressure. So maybe between the apple and the cheesecake or in the cake, whatever kind of
cake it is.
cake this is, you go for the apple.
Oh my goodness, go for the apple. Go for the apple for your snack, for your dessert, right? For your dessert. So cakes, desserts like cakes, cookies, we already said that, and pastries. Pastries, you may not eat this, but when you go to some funerals and some places, we share a lot of pastries. And sometimes you grab more, especially if you're a church leader, they give you the best of the pastries because they know you are an elder of the church. Come on, man, that's not good. Give you all the good pastries, and it's not good because of the trans fat. And some of them are fried. Some pastries are even baked, and even those have the trans fats.
Trans fats.
So if you fry them, like the chips, the flat chips that they give us sometimes, those are all not healthy. So we got to start avoiding them if we want to keep our pressures low. If you don't care, then of course you can do them. But if you care about your pressure, then you got to make sure that you do not do those as much because they are eventually going to add up. Some people do that and that's all they eat. That is not good. And like Gifty said, if it's once upon a time you went to a party, and that's what they say. It's once, unless you go to a party every day, which some people would, then of course you got to avoid it at each party. But once a month, funeral, and you ate it, it's okay. That's not where you're going to show the world that you don't eat this, you don't eat that. It's okay. But I mean, if you don't eat it there too, it's good, especially if you are finding it difficult to control your pressure. Some people are taking multiples of medication and their pressure is still up there. For those people, even if it's once a year, avoid it, bro. Avoid it, sis, because you are struggling already. to even keep the pressure where it's supposed to be with multiple medications. And so if something that we know for a fact will raise your pressure comes around, you gotta avoid it completely. And so that is that for those. I don't know if there's any other. Yeah, it looks like there's more stuff coming up. See if there's anything else that we can talk about. And I think there is before we move forward, there is another. There's a question here. Yes, and this is actually on our list. Pastor Eric says that what about butter and margarine? Yes, butter and margarine is on the list too. It's also partially hydrogenated and all those things. It's also part of the list. You should avoid them. The spread of all those things are not good for you. We may come to that eventually. But the next one is fried foods. Fried foods, including fried chicken, which a lot of people eat fried chicken. Oh, come on, man. Fried chicken tastes good. Trust me, it's not like we don't have taste buds. We know they taste good. But would you want to taste those good things and suffer with heart disease at your age 60, age 50, and be told to, oh, don't run too much with the kids. When the grandkids come, leave them. Oh, come on, man. That is a life not happy. You want to be able to do what you got to do. Just cut back on these things, So fried chicken or any fried food for that matter would raise your blood pressure eventually. So that is that. So we say don't eat fried foods. Don't eat fried foods, whether it's chicken, beef, or whatever food. In fact, even fish. We like fish, but if you fry it, you are defeating the purpose. So fried foods should be completely avoided. And let's see if unless you want to add anything. And some of the fried foods, this one has the skin already, and then it's fried. So skin fat, which is fat saturated, and then fried in a bad fat, another saturated or trans fat. And so it's double whammy leading to heart attack.
And it also have barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce, which is, oh my goodness. So that is bad right there. And this is the one that the pastor asked about, which is butter and margarine. Those are also on the list of foods that you should avoid if you want to control your blood pressure. Or if you don't want your blood pressure to creep up. It's good now, but you don't want it to go up as you age, as you grow, then avoid this also, which is butter and margarine, or even cheese spread and all those things. You got to avoid them. Definitely avoid them because they will catch up to you. The sad thing is you don't even eat them alone. You also put it on something as refined as this bread, which is also not good for you. This bread should be whole grain or multi-grain bread, which does not spike your blood sugars. And then on top of it, after being processed, you also add in butter and margarine. So don't eat this for your blood pressure, for your heart's sake. Don't eat this for your blood glucose sake. Don't eat this. So this is one of those things that we say, don't eat. Don't eat, no way.
So in place of this, we can say that you can use a whole grain bread. Then instead of the margarine or the butter, you can use your avocado on it.
Avocado spread on it. Yes. That would be great. That would be great.
That would be better.
Or choice. Even almond. What do you have? Almond paste, almond butter. Something like that would be a good replacement for this. So you still have the spread, just that it's not on from an unhealthy source. It's a different thing right there. So that is don't eat. Now let's go to some of the foods that would actually increase your potassium levels. Remember, we showed you that potassium levels going up will make sure your blood pressure go down, right? So now let's see those foods, and then we will discuss them. So the first food, don't eat. The second foods are these. And the first one is green leafy veggies or green leafy foods. And whichever one you have in your area where you live. Some people have contomere, some people have spinach. Some people have lettuce. Some people have whatever. As long as it is green, as long as you can turn it to be a cow for a little bit. Come on, man. As long as it's green, you are eating from nature, and those have high potassium. Especially when it is spinach. Spinach is known to have high potassium, and so if you want to increase your potassium levels and control your blood pressure, then consider including spinach and some other greens in your meals. And the way they work is that they increase the nitric acid levels that we were talking about, which basically relax your blood vessels and make your blood pressure lower. So the greens, that is how they do it. So eat this, don't eat those that we talked about. There's more. You have anything to
Yeah, so you can incorporate this in your smoothie.
Smooth green smoothie, right?
So you can make smoothie with this green. You can add it to your diet. You can add it to your eggs. When you fry your eggs, you can include this green, and you can also make your stew with this green. So however you can incorporate this in your diet, you find a way, the way that you enjoy it, and just at least once or twice a day, it should be part of your menu.
Part of your menu. Whatever food you eat, there should be a green on the side. If you eat a starchy white food, even though we say don't, at least if you have a green on the side, you can come yourself and say, I did bad, but at least I had a green. Come on, man. At least I had a green. You cheated, but at least you had a green to it. But if you seriously, if you seriously include this as a routine with your meals, you yourself will begin to feel the health benefits long before your pressure even drops. You can see that you have a lot of fiber. You go to the bathroom and you don't struggle. You eat a little bit and you are full. Why? Because the fiber is in there. And of course, its own constituent ingredients such as potassium is also bringing your pressure down and making you feel better. So that is eat those things. Eat those things. Come on, give us a like and heart. Some people are watching, but they are not saying lie. I see 6 thumbs up, but more than 6 may be watching. So just put it on there. And then the next one that we may have as we spin around, let me see if I can read it from my list of potassium foods. It's fruits. Yes, we are there on the fruits. The fruits and vegetables. Fruits, we already talked about a little bit about the greens. But yes, fruits. Fruits would also help you decrease your blood pressure by increasing your potassium levels. And some of the fruits that are included are cantaloupes, bananas, oranges, honeydew, as well as apricots and grapefruits. They are all rich in potassium, and they are going to help you decrease your blood pressure levels. So if you are tempted to reach out for a cake after that dinner, if you are tempted to reach out for a pastry after that restaurant dinner, tell them, do you guys have apples? Or cheesecake. Just pick up an apple, an orange, or even a tomato and chew it. Some people juice tomato juice. Drink that. Or the little thing that is showing up there, what's that again? Watermelon. The watermelon juice. Juice it up or just eat it from the thing. And all those things are healthy. They are sweet, but because they are natural, they are better sources of dessert than to eat an artificially made sweet cake or pie or whatever with added sugar and fat that are going to hurt you. We keep apples here in our studio basement here, and sometimes after we're about to go to sleep and you feel like I feel like I eat again, you grab an apple and you eat, and the sugar craving from the apple is satisfied, and you go to bed without having to eat again. So those little things that you can do that will help you avoid the unhealthy stuff is what we are saying. So fruits.
And I also see banana over there.
You see banana has high potassium amount in there. Banana too. And that is something that you could do. Oranges, common. Apples, oranges, apricots, and grapefruit. And again, your area, you may have a different fruit that we don't show. It's still good. As long as you don't overdo it, you're going to get your potassium, your magnesium, and some other nutrients from those. And so we encourage you to do that, and that will help you reduce your blood pressure levels. So going forward, there are another group of foods that also increases your potassium levels, and this is what we call the root vegetables. This what do we call this again?
The sweet
potatoes. This is sweet potato, and this is high in potassium. And so if you have a baked sweet potato for dinner, and I'm going to give you a cheat, and you have grilled chicken on the side, or for your protein, Or you thought I was going to say salmon, right?
Great
Because I always say
salmon.
salmon. Or salmon on the side, or tuna, whatever huge, kind of fish sauce on the side, along with some nice broccoli. Oh, come on, man.
That's
That
it.
makes for a good dinner, good lunch, or whatever time you eat it. You are increasing your potassium levels and your blood pressure goes down rather than to pound a huge stack of plantain or corn and make into a ball and add soup. It takes, apart from taking too long, it's also going to hit you on your blood sugar levels. But this, done moderately, would increase your potassium levels and you decrease your hypertension or your blood pressure. And so that is a good root vegetable that you can also use. And it's not just, regular potatoes may do the same thing, but we don't tend to recommend regular potatoes because that one usually releases the sugar, into your blood quicker. And so if you are diabetic, it becomes a problem. But for this root, sweet potatoes, and the funny thing is they are sweeter and yet they are better on the blood sugar than the whites one. And so, of course, moderately, you can increase your potassium and then make sure that you don't get hypertension. Or if you have hypertension, it will help you manage it at least. And so that is that one. The next one, it's good old nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds. And I think we have something coming up for that too. Nuts and seeds. So this is another thing that we have learned to include to our regular meals. In fact, sometimes my lunch is just plain nuts. I tell my people where I work, I tell them that as for me, I just eat nuts because I'm nuts. Because I'm nuts, I eat nuts. As a joke. But the key is that they are healthy. They are packed with so much nutrient dense that when you eat this, you drink a little bit of water or milk, 1% milk or non-fat milk, and you are good, especially if it's non-dairy milk. You are good. You are filled, and it stays on you for a long time compared to somebody else who is eating a white stuff, something like a burger with a huge bun and meat and stuff. That person is not eating healthy. But you, by eating these nuts, would be doing the right stuff.
Yeah, and what are some of the nuts? We have the almonds, we have the pistachios, we have the walnut. What else? We have the seeds. We have few.
You have sunflower seeds on there.
Sunflower seeds.
There's a bunch of nuts. I mean, not all of them are on here. There's peanuts, which, I give to say is not the best nut, She always tells me, because I love peanuts, it's like it's the list of the best nuts.
Yes.
So it's on the bottom of a ladder. But at least, it's better than to eat a cheese pizza.
So I think what we have done is we buy each of these nuts and we take parts of each and put them together, mix them together, and make it available for everybody. That will be your snack instead of giving our kids or taking the cookies, the chocolate chip cookies, and all that. It's full of trans fat. But if we replace that snack with this kind of nuts, we are increasing our potassium and definitely getting rid of excess sodium, which will control our blood pressure.
My goodness. I'm hoping that you're having value. We need you to hit the like button. If you are joining us, we are showing you the foods that you should eat and the foods that you should not. We've already talked about those you should not, and we are going through the foods that you should eat. And the next one that we have just talked about was the nuts, and nuts of all kinds, of course. Again, we may be showing you nuts that are not available. That we may not be showing you nuts that are available in your area, but as long as they are nuts and they exist in their natural form, then of course those are it. The next one is the food that we want you to eat. We mention this all the time, and those are the fish groups, the large fish groups such as salmons and tuna, and any of the other large fish groups. We add tilapia, especially if it is wild caught. Today they are making a lot of farms with tilapia, and we got to be careful what they are raising the tilapia with. But if you can get a wild caught tilapia, I think they can serve as a large fish group that is also healthy. And so this will also increase your potassium levels. And also, because of the good fat in there, you are going to ensure that you lose, your blood pressure goes down. And that's the key that we are doing here. You have anything else to add to that one?
Okay.
All right. So that is the fish groups that we are talking about. The next thing that we want to talk about is your avocado. I love avocado. Come on, man. Avocado. So eat avocado. We went past avocado, but I'm going to go back if it's possible. Eat avocado, please. And the reason why is that it also increases your potassium levels. Avocado and the green that we showed earlier, they all add up to increase. That is the spinach and avocados. They increase your potassium. As a matter of fact, if you're on blood pressure medications, and the medication makes you lose a lot of sodium, sometimes you lose your potassium along with it. And so we encourage you to include avocados as a staple in your diet, avocado and spinach, so that you replace the sodium, the potassium that you are losing as a result of your medication. And if you're not on a blood pressure medication, but you just want to have a healthy blood pressure level, include consistent amounts of avocado in your diet, and you'll be increasing your potassium, and hopefully that will help you with your blood pressure levels. Can you go forward?
Yeah.
All right. So the next one, then I think you saw is tomatoes. Tomatoes are also rich in potassium levels, and so we also encourage you to include tomatoes in your diet. Rich source of potassium, and so a lot of people do use tomatoes. The only sad thing is that sometimes you buy them processed. You buy the canned tomato and they already put sodium to preserve it. And so it defeats the purpose. You wanted the potassium, but you are getting sodium because it's used as a preservative. And so if you
And
sugar too. And so if you bought it as its own original tomato, like we're seeing on the screen, and you cut it up and use it, that is better. Especially if you can get it in a nice farm, wash it good and you cut it and put it on your own meal. That is the way to go. And so that is another thing that we can include. So eat it, and then you will be you'll be decreasing your blood pressure levels. You have anything to add?
no, we're good.
Good. So I think the last one may be another one that we call dried fruits. Dried fruits, and it kind of like the what do you call it? The nuts,
The nuts and the
because
seeds.
they become small and stuff. But dried fruits are also high in potassium levels. Dried fruits such as apricots. Apart from eating it in the fresh form, if you got it dried, it's also rich in potassium. And then
You have the
prunes,
raisins.
and the raisins, and it's a host of other things that you can have. Those have higher amounts of potassium. And the other thing that you're not even mentioning here is that they make you regular. If you are constipated all the time, you are getting potassium and you are getting regular. Oh, come on, man. Two things in your life. You can go to the bathroom and you are easy. Why? Because they are high in fiber. They will make you go and you'll be fine. And so that is another thing that you should increase in your diet in order for you to become less hypertensive or to help with managing your hypertension. That is about all the foods that we have time to share with you. Does you have anything else to add, right? So with that being said, now we want to talk about after we have talked about don't eat this. After we've told you don't eat those, what are some of the things that we can do ultimately, apart from not eating these foods that we have said? I would add, unless you want to, I would add that controlling your blood pressure is not one way. You don't use one approach. You got to have several means. It's like a multi-pronged approach. You use this, you use that, and they all come together. And so I got to be careful to tell you, if you are on a medication to treat your blood pressure, Don't say that I watched the cartoon and they said that when I eat this, my pressure will come down. So I'm no more medication. Come on, man. I didn't say that. I did not say that. And I will not say that ever. Why? Because I sell medicines. No, come on, that's not the reason. No, the reason is that when your hypertension has been, to some extent, it may not be fully controlled by dietary changes. You may need medications to control your blood pressure. And so these lifestyle changes with diet and all those things we have shared are adjuncts. They are helping you so that it doesn't get worse or so that you may not get additional medications on top of what you have. But if you're on medication, don't stop and say that, oh, I didn't know that if I ate avocado, my pressure would be good. I'm no more medicine. No, no, no. You got to still take your medicine. You got to still see your doctors. Every medication you're on, you got to still do that. And then on top of them, do the things that we have shown. Then it may help you reduce it better. It may actually help the medications work better, as Gifty explained last time. That even for the medications, when we are giving you the medications, we tell you that along with diet and exercise. So this is the diet part. But if you need to be on medication, you got to be taking it. Now, if you are not diagnosed already with high blood pressure and you start changing your lifestyle with these medications, you stop eating those salty foods that we showed you, the burgers, the fries, and you read labels. We wanted to show you on the camera some of the things that the food will tell you, right on the label how much sodium, and you know that you can't eat more than 2,300 milligrams, and yet one meal is giving you 700 milligrams, 1,000 milligrams. You know that you should not eat it. If you do those things, perhaps you may not even become hypertensive in the first place to need medication. So that is where we are. If you have not already been diagnosed, doing these along with exercise will help you probably not to get there. But if you're already there, doing this will help you manage it better and promote your overall cardiovascular health, promote your brain health so you may not get a stroke, you may not get a heart attack, and help you manage your cholesterol, your blood sugar, and all those things that go hand in hand. So that is what I'm going to say. Would you have to add to that?
Yes, what I would like to add is we know medications have side effects, so if you have not been diagnosed yet and you take charge of the diet that you are eating and you take interest in how much sodium you are ingesting and how much potassium you're trying to incorporate in your diet. You're doing all the right things, all the things that we are trying to tell you. If you do that, there are no side effects of the
Oh my
foods.
goodness, there are no side effects to the
There are
food.
no side effects.
And sometimes the side effect is good. Like you eat high potassium food like
Then you go
nuts,
to the
and then you
bathroom.
go to the bathroom, you are not constipated. What a good side effect. You become regular. Okay, go ahead.
So you don't want to get to that point that you are going to be put on 3 different high blood pressure. I know people that are on 3 high blood pressure before is able to control. So you have to take interest in what you are eating. It's out there. Knowledge is power. We are sharing the knowledge with you. Whatever you are eating, make sure that you are eating the right stuffs. And we are all trying. We are not there yet. We are paying attention because we are teaching people. So we want to do the right things too. So take interest, change certain things. I just changed the milk that I use every morning for my coffee. And I don't know, I'm trying so hard. It's kind of a struggle, but I'm trying, because I don't want to end up with high blood pressure. And I want my old age to be such that I have quality of life, that I'm able to move around, I'm able to enjoy my grandkids, I'm able to do basic things. But if I don't take care of myself now, it's likely that there are certain things that I cannot do. So we are all learning together, we are all trying together. So make little changes here and there. The resources are here. Some people are in another location or another area that they don't have all the resources. You have the resources. So we are encouraging each and every one to make the right choices so that we all live to enjoy our lives.
Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. I like that. Make the right changes and enjoy your life because it's important. Somebody told me today, I didn't tell them that I was going to mention a church that they traveled somewhere in the Caribbean, and they saw a lot of people with diabetes and hypertension. And most of these people don't even have access to healthcare. And because of what she saw, she's changing her diet. It's like, no, 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 no. I'm not going to be eating these white starchy foods when I know that even with the short period that I've been away, I've been able to live without them. So some of these small changes may make a difference. And she said that I've already seen that my belly has gone down a little bit. I'm not making it up. Today, just by avoiding those white starchy foods like fufu, banku, dumplings, potatoes, or whatever it is that we eat. Sugar, added sugar, juice. If you are watching us and you buy soda and juice and put in your fridge, either for yourself or your kids, oh, come on, man. Come on. We challenge you to stop. Save your money because you are buying disease. In your 40s, 50s, 60s, you are going to be paying extra for those things you already bought in and or drunk. So please, that is all we want to share with you today. That, hey, make those little changes. For those little changes are able to bring more permanent, magnified, results that you never thought you could achieve. All right, so that brings us to the end of the show today. Next week, I think let me see if I have. Oh, before we do that, usually we say, do this for us. And before we do that, we say, if you enjoy the show, make sure you subscribe to our channel. On YouTube, it's Dr. Ortain. And on Facebook, just search Dr. Ortain. You will find us. And help us by sharing the video as you also watch and do the thumbs up so that we reach more people. And we hope that many people will benefit from what we are learning. So next week, what we have is we are talking again about the dangers of hypertension. And we have our own church elder and leader who happens also to be a medical doctor to come on the live and talk to us about it. And he is Dr. Nathan Nate. And we hope to have a good time. We want you to invite somebody and ensure that we join together and share on the live next week so that we will learn a lot about what hypertension can do to you if you do not treat it, if you have it. And if you don't have it, how to avoid it because it may be a danger to you and your health. All right, so that is what we have for today. And we can close today by saying, Beloved,
we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
God bless.